for them. And actually, they took some of those suggestions. I actually had a telephone call Friday afternoon. There was a press release, and they released the two bills. There's a House Bill 2 and Senate Bill 2, which are identical, that the governor, lieutenant governor, and Speaker of the House had a press conference talking about those bills. And I had a call that afternoon after that saying, hey, from the office, say, hey, what do you think? And they called because they did make some changes that we had asked for. And so I feel like we're doing what we should be doing. And that, you may or may not know what that is, but there's a number of things in it, but one of the things is the governor's proposing a 2.5% cap on revenue for cities, counties, and schools for property tax. And so before we took the position that, yeah, we're okay with that, we ran all the Colleyville's numbers back through 2010, I think it was, Adrian, right? Took the actual numbers from our budgets, ran it through all those constraints, and I can tell you it would not have impacted Colleyville at all. In fact, we did something even tougher than that. The legislation proposes a cap on the maintenance and operations revenues only. Well, in your tax, you're paying maintenance and operations NINS, which is the interest funds for paying debt. So we ran that constraint on all revenues, 2.5% constraint on all revenues for those same years, and actually we came under that. It was very interesting. So we have the data to support the positions that we're taking. The other piece that we said, and it's got to be part of this legislation, is school funding reform. Has to happen. This year, Robin Hood recapture needs to be changed. We told them, hey, it needs to go away at absolute minimum, flat, reduce it. And that's part of the legislation too. So next meeting, we will actually have a legislative agenda that the council intends to pass. So we put in writing the things that we're supporting as a body. So I spent more time than intended there, but I think it's a very important topic. I'll let some of y'all have announcements now.
Well, I'd like to update on a few things. Restaurants, Chef Point's owner said that they should start construction in a couple of weeks and anticipate a May opening. Additional, over at the old Mooyah Crepes Bistro place at Suite 300, a fast food casual burger concept called Burger M. Is that right? Yeah, Burger M's going to move in. We always welcome new businesses to Colleyville, and we appreciate it. And earlier today, we had a ribbon cutting for Walmart for their new, where you can call in and get the groceries. Well, they now made an app, and all you got to do is download the Walmart app, put what groceries you want in, pull out in the parking lot, text them, and they'll bring it out to your car within 5 minutes. So download the app and shop away. And one last thing, this is a personal thing. We had a visitor come by our neighborhood just last week. He wasn't a welcome visitor, but the police department stepped up immediately as soon as they heard something was going on. And I want to give a shout out to April Zabowski. I think I said that correctly. If I didn't, I'm sorry, April. But you guys are so awesome. Thank you for protecting us, and hats off to every one of you guys back there. Thank you.
Well, on that, keeping on the same note with our police and fire, I want everybody to mark their calendars because on Friday, February 8th, this Friday coming up from 3:30 until 5 at the Central Fire Station, our new chief, right over here, Mark Cantrell, is getting sworn in, and we'd like to have a lot of people there to wish him well. He's doing a great job, and we have a great fire department, as well as police department. The police department reached a record high number of applications in January. It was 107 applications, and the record before that was in July with 93. And 77 of those during the month have been received since announcing the new hiring incentives that started on January 14th. So with that being said, there were 77 applications in 17 days, which is awesome. So the hiring incentives seem to be working. So on an average, it looks like we've been receiving about 67 applications per month since the incentives started. So we want to keep up the good work on that. We've got the best police officers now, and we want to continue with adding the best to our staff.
Absolutely.
Good. This last week, there was a stormwater master plan public meeting that was held at Colleyville Center. And the reason it was we held it was to give our local residents, Colleyville residents, an opportunity to provide input to our stormwater master plan. There were 2 meetings like this. That was the first one. The next one will be held sometime in the summer. But the idea is to get information from citizens of stormwater issues that you may have. If water is running over your driveway and causing problems, we need to get that information captured. We want to know, obviously, flooding. If you're encountering flooding around you, we need to know about that. We need to know about, we will be communicating things that are going on from water quality and upcoming stormwater projects, as well as maintenance. We had very good turnout this last week. In fact, I was there for about an hour, and you know, there were at least 40 people there when I left, and I left before it was over, so we're glad to see that. We need all the feedback. We captured the feedback from those that were there. All that information will be formatted and presented to the council during a work session in March. And again, there will be another meeting in this summer. Please make sure that if you have input, come to that meeting, or if you can't make that meeting, please let the city staff or any of the council know of your specific situations, and we'll make sure that those get to the right people.
And Public Works staff has submitted 6 Colleyville trails for grant consideration to the Texas Parks and Wildlife this week. This round of grants is for $200,000. Staff plans to submit the same trails as part of the NCTCOG grant program in March.
So I've got a couple things that are pretty exciting. If you're anything like me, something that always gets opened in your mailbox is your bills. So I always open my Colleyville water bill, and in there's always the great flyer that's got information about what's going on in our city. And we are partnering with a new vendor, and that starts on February 14th. So that's a good Valentine for all of us. It's a really exciting partnership. I know it doesn't sound like it, but we're going to be able to get better, more up-to-date information out to all of our residents. And like I said, if you're like me, that's something you open and read every month. So please let us know if you're getting information you like to see in those newsletters. If there's something we could be communicating better, we'd like to know that too. So send us that feedback. And then another update on the library, since you all know I love the library. All of the shelving and furniture has arrived, and it really looks great over there. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the new layout and see the new furniture, then please do, and I hope you enjoy it.
Very good. Thank you, guys. I want to do one other thing. Last meeting, if you were here, you noticed that we swore in our mayor for a day, Mayor Daniel Thomas, and so he sent a letter to all of us. So I wanted to read that letter, and he actually sent some pictures too. That if you could put up there while I read the letter. Dear Mayor Newton and Mr. Duque, thank you so much for having such a wonderful contest. I learned so much about how the police department, the fire department, public works, and the library work. I really appreciate Chief Miller, Mr. Cantrell, Mr. Ray, and Mrs. Rodney for spending their time with me. Colleyville is the best city because of them. We have so many smart and great people working for it. Thank you both for inviting me to lunch. The lunch was delicious, and I like talking with you both. Mr. Duque is so funny. I agree. I'm still thinking about his son's flag football joke. Tell us that joke. Not tonight. I also want to thank you for recognizing me as mayor for a day. I was nervous at the city council meeting, and you helped me so much. That day was so amazing. I could not sleep the night before or the night after. Please thank the city council members for having me and allowing me to join in. You all have to make so many decisions and do so much to keep the city running. I don't know how to thank you. I still cannot believe this day happened. Thankfully, Daniel Thomas. I thought that was a real sweet letter. And these are the pictures that he sent us, so I'm sharing with them. During the day, those pictures were taken. That's a great program. And also, I sent a letter from the mayor to each of the applicants, that, because not all of them got it. So I did get a letter from Priscilla Carter, who was one of the applicants. Let me read that, it's short. Dear Mayor Newton, thank you for taking the time to write a letter. I know you are busy, and thank you so much for writing me a letter. It is hanging on my wall in my room. I have lived in many places, and I am happy I had a chance to live here. My dad has a job where we move a lot. I am so happy to live here that I don't ever want to move again. I will enter the Mayor of the Day contest for years to come. I'm so happy that you wrote me a letter. Again, thank you. Sincerely, Priscilla Carter. So, Priscilla, I don't know if you're watching tonight. I hope you are. Thank you so much for the letter. I really appreciate it. And Mayor Thomas, thank you. And by the way, we call it Mayor for Day, and I told him this, but it's really a Mayor for Day plus, because I view him as our Mayor for Day all year long, and so he will help us light the Christmas tree at Christmas time. By the way, which I expect to be in the new plaza. Okay,
Yes.
great. They're going to be right out here. So I look forward to that also. So now to some real serious matters. So tonight, Chief Miller is going to present life-saving awards to two Colleyville police officers, Rafael Cortez and Darren Smith. And I can tell you, we have an amazing police force and fireman force, and they've done some great things. So tonight recognizes some of that. I'm going to come down here with you for you to do that.
Officer Cortez and Officer Smith, if you guys will come down here. I'm sure they love being centers of attention. This is one of the coolest things as Chief of Police that you ever get to do. Many times, many officers, including firefighters actually, who respond to these medical emergencies, never ever get a save throughout their entire career. You could work for 20 or 30 years and actually never save somebody's life. These two gentlemen here saved one of our residents' lives, and as a matter of fact, you probably heard the fire chief and the city council talk about how phenomenal this year has been, but they have saved 5 or 6 lives through CPR and early CPR in this city. This has got to be one of the safest cities to have a heart attack in, but if there is such a thing. But let me tell you about the actions of these two men on September 19th, 2018. And I also want to thank Corporal Sandra Scott for nominating them for this award. So let me give you the details. On September 19th, 2018, Officer Smith and Officer Cortez responded to a residence off of Bills Lane regarding a male in his 50s who was unresponsive and not breathing. Both officers arrived simultaneously and found the patient lying on the bed and unconscious. It was determined he was not breathing and did not have a pulse. Officer Smith and Officer Cortez immediately assessed the patient and moved him to the floor and began CPR. The patient began to present occasional gasps, but no normal pattern of breathing. The officers performed CPR for 3 minutes until the paramedics arrived and took over care of the patient. This patient lived, and as a matter of fact, actually came to the fire department, and these officers were invited out in October to actually meet the patient and his family, and they got to say thanks to the firefighters and to the officers for their life-saving efforts. But because of their efforts, we have a resident here who actually gets to live and gets to spend another year with his family, and we are forever grateful for your heroic actions that day. So thank you both. And because of that, Corporal Scott had recommended that they receive the life-saving award from the police department. And we have a nomination. We have a committee that reviews those nominations, and they look at it, compare it to our policy, and this met all of the requirements for award, and so we are awarding the life-saving award from the police department to these officers tonight. So congratulations. Thank you so much for what you do. And I think we have the plaques here. Officer Smith. That was yours, Officer Cortez. Yeah. Please do.
So Colleyville, I'm going to read to you what this says because you can't read it out there. Colleyville Police Department Life-Saving Award presented to, in this case, Officer Rafael Cortez, in recognition of your immediate assessment and heroic actions on September 19, 2018 that included performing CPR on the unresponsive patient that was not breathing and had no pulse. Your decisive actions were directly responsible for saving this individual's life, awarded February the 5th, 2019 at the Colleyville City Council meeting, signed by the Chief and Assistant Chief. So I want to congratulate you very much. Congratulate you. I want to say one other thing. I tell you, I just can't say enough about what you guys do. And by the way, my grandson was just badged Friday at the Dallas Police Department, so he's joined the team. But I've learned through all of this that this is not just a job to you guys. This is a calling. I mean, this is what you have a passion to do, and this is the ultimate to save somebody's life. I mean, that creates a bond between you guys and that individual forever. And we just can't say enough about it. For your commitment and your skill and your training, and I've learned from Chief Cantrell that those 3 minutes that you did the CPR is what really does it, because if you miss those first few minutes, the likelihood of survival goes down dramatically. So your quick action, smart thinking, doing it is what counts. And so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now for pictures.
Yeah, so true that time.
You have anything you want to say? Thank you, fellas.
We got one more. Officer Smith, stay up here. So this guy is super extraordinary, and he actually has 2 saves to his career, and these happened 4 months apart. So, wow. Officer Smith, on January 7th, also conducted CPR again, and I'll read you the information here regarding that particular incident, but I wanted to thank Corporal Ron McFadden, who's here. I think all the staff, our assistant chief, lieutenant, several sergeants, corporals, officers are here to support these 2 men, and so thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys who had nominated them. So Officer Smith, January 19th, Officer Smith responded to a residence regarding a male in his 20s who was not breathing. Officer Smith was the first to arrive on the scene. The patient was unresponsive, not breathing, and again had no pulse. Officer Smith began CPR and instructed the wife how to keep her husband's airway in an unobstructed position. After multiple sets of compressions, the patient gasped for air. After continuing compressions, the male began to breathe on his own. Officer Smith performed CPR alone for 5 full minutes prior to the fire department's arrival. If anybody's ever done CPR, even 1 minute is a long time. 5 minutes is extraordinary, and I'm sure he was tired by the end of that time. Glad to see the firefighters arrive. So during the time he was performing CPR, he maintained communication with other responding units and with the patient's frantic wife. Upon arrival, paramedics administered an opioid reversal medication as part of their protocol, and afterwards the male became responsive, and it was discovered the patient's condition was caused by an opioid overdose. The patient was able to walk out on his own to the ambulance and was transported to the hospital.
Wow.
Previously not breathing, no pulse, unresponsive, walks to the ambulance after CPR and care from the paramedics. Also, just another phenomenal case. And again, the review board looked at this, it met the elements, and we are awarding another life-saving award to Officer Smith. Hopefully you've got some wall space to hang these. We're so proud of you, and we really thank you for your dedicated service and your heroic actions that day.
Amen.
Mayor.
He is wiping. You gotta get a picture. Yeah, we can do do that, but it's quite phenomenal to get 2 of these. I want to set this. Thank you, Chief. Thank all of you guys. I can tell you, one thing that we did put into the State of the City address is we have a video of one of the people that was saved, Bill Tilley, who in the video, it's a great video, and in the video he says, my doctor told me I was a victim of sudden cardiac death, and he survived. I mean, you know, Colleyville is the safest city in Texas, and I was telling the chief earlier at the work session we were talking about, he was giving us a report on crime statistics, and, you know, we're not just the safest city in Texas, but, you know, I feel safe here, and that's really important, and not just because of what the police does with crime, but because of this. I mean, you know, I'm getting to be an old guy too, and so you feel really safe. You're going to get taken care of, and you're going to get taken care of quickly. Very few cities can say that. Thank you guys very much. Okay, and now we're going to move to agenda item number 4, which is the consent resolution. So this is resolution R-19-4353, a resolution approving city council action under consent items at the regular city council meeting of February the 5th, 2019. Whereas city council has taken action on certain items on the agenda under consent items. Now therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the agenda decisions approved by City Council action under consent items as follows are hereby adopted. A, approval of a monetary donation in the amount of $5,000 to the Colleyville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association, a not-for-profit organization, in recognition of the CCPAAA's contribution to the public safety and welfare of the citizens of Colleyville. The donation will be administered by the city manager and paid from the Strategic Initiatives Fund for the public purpose of supporting the CCPAAA's continuous effort to enhance the public safety and welfare within the city, and it is so resolved. So we don't have a staff briefing on this, I'll just describe it, but this is a very appropriate time for this particular item, just happened to come up. But the Colleyville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association you have to go through the police academy and then you're eligible to join that association, but they do a lot for the city. The Citizens on Patrol are kind of a part of that. You go through CCPA if you want to become Citizens on Patrol, which we have. In fact, Chief Miller was saying that we actually have more citizens involved in Citizens on Patrol than we have police officers. That's quite phenomenal. And that's another reason why you live in the safest city in Texas. And so I really thank all of them. Wayne Maynard is the president of this organization. We'll give a call out to Mayor Kelly. Mayor Kelly, he does a lot. He spends a lot of time both with the fire and police, and so I know he's one of the citizens that spend a lot of time on all of your behalf, and I really appreciate him and everything that they do. So do I need to say anything else about this, or anybody else want to?
I just want to say it's fantastic that you guys have done this. I'm proud to be signed up for this. Actually, I'm super excited. Wayne's running a great program, and they put in, I'm not sure that you said it, but they put in over 888 hours of free time. So I'm super excited that council's taking action to do something like this for this organization.
Very good.
Volunteer time, right?
That's
volunteer, right. Oh yeah, volunteer time, volunteer time. Wayne, do you want to say something? Could you come up to the mic so people can hear you, and it'll go, the audio will then go out on the video as well. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the entire CCPAAA, I want to thank our city leaders and our city manager for giving us this opportunity to receive these funds. These funds are going to do so much to improve the safety of Colleyville. It's going to allow us to do things for our officers and for our department. And it's going to allow us to make the Citizens on Patrol and everything else the alumni does prosper, is what it's going to do. So I want to thank you and from the bottom of our hearts. And I would like to recognize Bo Bosher, Rob Bosher, and Paul Vigiletti, who are multiple year members of the Alumni Association, and I appreciate everything that they do and everything everyone else does. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, this is a public hearing and an action, so I'm going to open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. I don't think we have any cards. Anyone wants to speak on this item under public hearing, you're welcome to. I see no one so indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
I do have one question for you, Mayor.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it too late to sign up for this, or are you full, or do we need more applications?
Who can answer that question? Yeah,
I just
chief's back
received
there.
that question,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know if you heard.
he may not have heard the question. If you can't, he can't. Go ahead, Wayne, if you got the answer.
I wanted to speak in the public hearing for just a moment. I just wanted to let you know
okay.
that I approve of this.
Great.
Glad to hear that.
I kind of thought you did.
Yeah, I approve of it. Okay, the Colleyville Citizens Police Academy will begin on February 21st, Thursday, February the 21st. If anybody would like to apply, you have to, you can go to the city website. There's a link there to the application. You fill out the application, and we need to get it to our police department ASAP, because I don't know what the deadline that has been set for the receipt of applications, but I would imagine it's about 10 days prior to
Okay.
It's getting very close.
the start of the class.
Yeah.
So just a real quick thing, it's a 3-hour class, one night a week on Thursday evenings. It's a total of 11 classes.
Okay.
And once you get out of there, you have the opportunity to join the Alumni Association, and then you have the opportunity to become a Citizens on Patrol.
Very good.
All right. So I look forward to a full class this year.
Good. That's great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions by the council? Okay, if not, a motion's in order.
Did you close public hearing?
I kill the public hearing. Yeah.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution R-19-4353.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood, a second by Councilmember Nakamura. Would you open the vote, please, ma'am? And you may show it when it's ready. Okay, that motion is approved. Therefore, the resolution is approved. Thank you, guys. Okay, we will now move to Agenda 5A. And let me explain a little bit what 5A is, and 5A and 5B kind of go together. This is actually the agenda item is to discuss and consider the City Council's previous motion to approve Ordinance O-18-2056 that failed to pass during the December the 4th, 2019 City Council meeting. So that deserves a little bit of an explanation, what we're doing tonight. So in that meeting on December the 4th, the Oak Creek development on John McCain, which is 43 acres, where the big plantation house is, what did I say? Oak Creek. Oak Creek, what did I say? Oh, Oak Creek, I apologize. I always think Oak Alley because of the trees, and looks like it. At any rate, at that December the 4th,
It is Oak Alley.
It is Oak Alley. Yeah.
I'm right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
You
one of
two,
those,
do we need to separate you two?
again,
Hey, I'm doing okay. I was right. Anyway, getting back to the topic. December the 4th was the second reading of an ordinance to approve a zoning case. That zoning case had objection from more than 20% of the residents adjacent to that development application. Therefore, it required a supermajority. So December the 4th, after all the discussions and public hearings, a motion was made to approve. That vote on that motion was 4-3, which is a simple majority, but when you have over 20% opposition, it requires a supermajority. So that motion was declared to have failed. So then one other action the council took at that time, the council wanted to be sure that nobody misconstrued that there was no prejudice by the council against that development. So a motion was made and passed for that. Now, since after that, what occurred was both citizens that were in opposition as well as the representative of the developer both called me and different times as mayor to tell me that they had begun discussions and they both wanted to, felt like they could work together to the point that would result in making changes that would result in opposition being withdrawn, which would lower the opposition to below the 20% threshold. So because of that, then we, the city council and city manager, had a lot of discussions about how to proceed forward because a lot of work had been put in and a lot of the changes that had already been made and could, if it dropped below 20%, would be advantageous to citizens. And so we said, what's the procedure for handling this so that that can move forward under the condition that the 20% opposition be removed? And so we set in motion to do that, and tonight we are at that point where the 20% opposition has been removed, and so the action here in this first 5A agenda is to, and I will make a motion in just a second, is to pull that back so we can then discuss it again and take action on it. And action could go all the way from approval to remanding it to P&C, and I'll comment on that in a minute, to denial again. So that's what this does. It's kind of analogous to when something's been tabled or taken off the table. It's a simple motion that gives the council the ability to vote on whether or not they want to do that. So this is not an item that dictates a public hearing. It's just a motion, and the council chooses what they want to do. Now 5B then becomes a normal then agenda item of that case. So hopefully that explains reasonably well what's going on here. And so that's where we're at. Again, this is a, so I'm happy if anybody wants to say anything or discuss anything, we can. Otherwise, I will make a motion. Okay. Failing that, then I make a motion to rescind the City Council's prior motion to approve Ordinance O-18-2056 that failed to pass by supermajority during the December 4, 2018 regular City Council meeting. So I do not need to have a public hearing. That's the motion on the table. It requires a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, as I just stated, by the mayor, and a second to that motion by Councilmember Dodson. And so this is a little unusual. The city secretary asked if I would, that she didn't have this set up in her system, just to manually take the vote. So I'm just going to call the vote. Councilmember Nakamura?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindemood?
Aye.
Councilmember Wheat?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye. Councilmember Dodson?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigney?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion is approved. Therefore, now we may go to agenda item B. If that had not been approved, we would have bypassed item B, 5B. So agenda item 5B. Okay, so now where we are is it's the same case, the same ordinance number as before, but now we're in a position to relook at that, and we will do that. So we'll do the normal things that we do. We'll have the staff come up and do a briefing. That basically what we need to know now is what have the changes been since the last time in December the 4th, because clearly there's been several changes because the opposition has gone down below 20%. We'll hear what that is and discuss that. We'll open a public hearing, so anybody that wishes to speak to it can speak to it. Close the public hearing, and then an action is in order. So I will tell you up front, my recommendation, in fact, I do intend, after we do all that, to make the motion to remand this case back to P&Z in their February the 11th meeting. And so just wanted everybody to know that's at least my recommendation and intent once we get at the end of this item. So I just thought it's better to, at least me to state my position up front so everybody's not wondering about what may happen, because we could do any kind of action, actually. But that's what we think is most appropriate. So with that, Ben, you want to give us your review?
Thank you. Ben Briner, Director of Community Development. So this is for the Oak Alley case. What I have for you hopefully are just a few slides to show the changes that were made. And for some reason, the clicker is not working. I'll do it. Okay. So if we can go to the next one. So here is the summary of changes that were made. And hopefully you were able to find the exhibits in your packet. But the primary change was that they did reduce the total number of lots by 1. So that reduced it from 35 lots down to 34 lots. With that, they redistributed the area from that lot that they removed to those properties, specifically along Holly Lane. So now each of those lots are minimum 30,000 square feet. The next thing they did is they removed the pond that was previously shown along Holly Lane. However, they did maintain that area as an open space lot. So it still will be an open space lot owned and maintained by the homeowners association. And those are really the primary changes with regard to the plan itself. The next change, though, is that they do have some agreements for some off-site drainage improvements. Mm-hmm. One for some properties just across Holly Lane to the west. And then secondarily, that tributary that leads into Bear Creek, looking to reroute that so that it flows into the pond that they have proposed in their large open space in the northern area of their development. So they do have agreements. I believe that their agreements, or they are in talks with making sure that those agreements are in place. And so with that, the PUD document itself was revised accordingly. Really all it did was just change some references to the appropriate lot numbers with regard to lot areas, as well as to where easements and setbacks would apply. And then just a statement identifying that there are off-site drainage agreements in place as well. So not very much as far as any major changes to the ordinance. The final thing I wanted to bring up was in relation to the opposition. We received several letters to rescind their previous opposition, and that brought that down to a total of about 11%. Okay. So we are well under the 20% limit. And then that last statement, all other conditions, regulations, agreements, exhibits, et cetera, remain unchanged other than what I just outlined.
Okay. Very good.
If you have any questions?
Yeah, well, so let me just make the statement. If you were in the meeting in December the 4th and the one previous to that, there was a lot of discussion on this development and all the changes that had been made to accommodate things. So these are additional ones. And I'm not going to attempt to review all that tonight, because if the council agrees with remanding this back to P&Z, it will go to P&Z, and then at our next meeting on February the 19th, it will be back on our agenda for action, and then we will have all the discussions we need to have, cover all the details again, but tonight we're not going to take an action to approve or disapprove anyway. So I think this was a good summary. I will say this: I appreciate all the work I know the citizens put in and the representatives of the developer put in to work together to make those changes that clearly pleased, though, some that were in opposition, and mitigated their issues, and lets this be back in front of us. So I will also say that in moving forward, we are doing everything possible to make sure everybody's aware of this. We have always been, and one of our values is transparency. We will be transparent on everything as a body and as a city. We had notified formally all the residents within the 200-foot distance, which is what had been used for this development, that this meeting was occur tonight, even to the degree of pointing out what the possible actions were, all of them. And so if the council passes the motion to remand to P&Z, that notification carries over to the P&Z meeting for Monday, so it's officially notified. But in addition to that, our intention would be actually to send a letter out, like tomorrow or as soon as it could be prepared, letting people know that it's been remanded back, and we will plan to use the 500-foot distance for that letter. And so then it will be at P&Z. They will take whatever action they're going to do. It will come back to us. We will, of course, notify for the February 19th meeting, and we will use the 500-foot distance marker to notify for that meeting. I mentioned that 200 to 500 feet, but only because since this whole thing started, we have changed the land development code to be more inclusive, so we have extended the notification area out to 500 feet. And so any application in the future will be notified to 500 feet. That was what we wanted to do anyway. So we don't have to in this case, but we're going to do it anyway because that's what the council chooses to do. I will point out that the change in the land development code did not change the distance marker for determining opposition. And so that remains at 200 feet. But the more people that know, the better, as far as we're concerned. We have also put this on Facebook. We have put it into our website in our project development area, and and our map. So there's a map on the website. You can go look at that map, see where all the developments are. It's on that map. And we did want to put the sign out front. Oh yeah, put the sign out front. Put the sign back out front of the property, the zoning sign, so everybody driving by knows it. So we have done everything. As far as I know, that you can do to notify and be transparent, which is basically the same procedure if this was a new case anyway. So that's what we're trying to do. Did I leave anything out? Okay, so again, that's kind of where we're at. I'm now, unless you guys want to talk about it, I'm going to open a public hearing.
I just had one question
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick. The pond is gone. In the open space, we were told it was like a park or a park system. Is that correct?
Yeah, I apologize. I should have gone to this. Here's the
I
exhibit.
was wondering if you had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we clarify that.
Yeah, so it is an open space lot, and then any offsite drainage up closer to Bear Creek will go to the pond that you see there in the larger
Yeah.
open space on this side, on this exhibit to the right.
Yeah.
Will this be treated as a park, I guess, this open space?
Yeah, the
Yes,
plan,
it is
yeah,
common.
it
Yeah.
shows trees in the common area.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
a pergola or something like that.
Oh, and that one on Holly. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
an exhibit. I don't know if you have
The
it.
picture.
There it is. That's the exhibit of the open space.
Gazebo.
Along
I'm sorry.
Holly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
it was all up to what everybody was agreeing to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, we'll go back to that other picture. We're talking about something that we know about, but somebody watching this, that the drainage that you referred to about kind of rediverting into the pond is really I can't show you.
There is an exhibit actually that we have. A few more.
There.
Go, a couple more. One more. There you go.
Okay, that's, okay, to orient people,
Yeah, so
right in the
this-
center of that's that area that's where that pond is in the open space. And the blue is the creekway that's flowing into it, and the red is the flow out, right?
Right, but currently it's following more the trajectory of the orange, and
Yeah.
it goes north, but the blue,
Yeah.
it will be the proposed improvement to
Yeah.
make it turn right
Right,
to get into the pond.
yeah. So what I wanted to point out to people that may not be familiar with is all of that is kind of off-site from where the lots are,
Correct.
okay?
Yeah.
And so it really kind of diverts that water further downstream.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open a public hearing then. Public hearing is open. We have any cards?
No, sir.
I don't have any cards. Anyone wish to speak in the public hearing?
Good evening, John Perone, 1216 Holly Lane, a resident there for over 25 years. One of the so-called 20%ers. I've always been uncomfortable having that distinction because ultimately this decision is in your hands. What I'd like the citizens of Colleyville to know that it is my opinion that I feel it is unfortunate that those 20%ers, so to speak, had leverage, and that seemed like the only way to really get attention. And I'm glad we're at 500 feet now. I hope in this very short time, which I'm uncomfortable with that, I believe we're allowing, letters are going to go out to 500 feet. By Monday, the P&Z is going to see it. All these people wouldn't even be able to digest it. So I disagree with how quickly it will be coming back to P&Z or actually to the council without the people of this extended area, which I feel would serve the greater community more so than myself and a few people right down the street from me. I think we've had unnecessary leverage in this, as a matter of fact. I think it has overshadowed the greater good of this community. I am, maybe I was a little naive in how, what my expectations were of the greater good. I'm not necessarily pointing blame at anyone. I'm just, I would just be hopeful that a greater community effort, more people would be involved and be concerned. And it isn't only about the people on Holly Lane, and it isn't only the people who had some flooding. This is a Colleyville greater good issue, and it is in your hands for that reason, like density, traffic. Please don't fall asleep on me when I say traffic, but it is important. Traffic, big issue. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? I see no one indicating they want to speak, so I'm going to close the meeting unless I see someone like to speak. Still see no one so indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Okay, so council wants to discuss more, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm ready to make a motion. So I make a motion to remand zoning case ZC 18-019, including ordinance O-18-2056, back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for additional review and recommendation at the commission's February the 11th, 2019 meeting. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to remand to P&Z at their next meeting by the mayor, and a second council member Wheat. Okay, Ms. City Secretary, do you want me to manually vote this also? Okay, so we're going to manually vote this one. I'm going to start with Mayor Pro Tem, since I started with Councilmember Nakamura first time. So we're voting on the motion to remand. Mayor Pro Tem, how you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Wheat?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye. Councilmember Dodson?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigney?
Aye.
Councilmember Nakamura?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So it is, that motion passes, so it's now remanded to P&Z. So we will do all the things I said earlier. It will be at the P&Z meeting next Monday, the 11th. So that meeting occurs here in this room. Then it will be back to City Council February the 19th, which is our next meeting. And at that meeting, we will take it up, discuss it to whatever degree we need to, and we will intend to take action on it, whichever that may be. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we will move to, well, agenda item 6A is consideration of amendments of the Land Development Code, Chapter 7, which is sign regulations. What we've been doing, and I talked to council earlier about this, since those things tend to take us a little time, we're going to move that agenda item basically to the end of the agenda Let me ask the question, is anyone here intending to speak at agenda item 8, which is citizen comments? Okay, so we'll move it past that. So we'll do that before. Okay, so with that, we're going to move to agenda item 6B. So, this is second reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2075, consideration of a zoning change from R40 Single Family Residential District to R20 Single Family Residential District on Lot C, McEwing Subdivision, and 1B, 02A, 1B2, 1B3, and 1B4, Abstract 1154, in the R.H. McEwing Survey located at 712 through 810 Lavaca Trail. That's case ZC 18-033. So this is second reading, so we'll take action tonight.
Yes. And really no change from the last time, but I will just try and go through this quickly. This is on the north side of Lavaca. It will be for a 25-lot residential subdivision, a single-family residential subdivision. Yeah. It is the same developer as the neighborhood to the south, which is called Legacy, so this is called Legacy North. The current zoning is shown as R20, however, that we've determined that that is an incorrect designation. There was a request to change back in 2006, I believe it was now, and it did not continue from the R40 to the R20. It did not continue, so it really should be the R40. It is the R40 district. So this is just the 2006 map showing R40, and then the 2007 is where the error happened. Anyway, but we did verify it is the R40 district, thus the change. It was originally requested for the R20 zoning district. It was, at the direction of the council, asked to go to a PUD, Plan Unit Development Residential. It was remanded back to Planning and Zoning Commission. They reviewed it again, and here it is back before you. Okay. Zoning history if we need it, but this is the zoning exhibit. You can see the 25 single-family residential lots. It does have some open space lots as well. I do have the plat exhibit for reference if we need to get to it. Preliminary drainage, preliminary utility. I think what I'd like to go through is just the ordinance itself. So it is intended for single-family residential development, 25 single-family lots, 5 open space lots, primarily to conform with the R20 district standards. As far as the conceptual plan and platting, on this slide, we did add some additional language, and so what you see underlined is what we added from last time. Referring to the exhibits, they may slightly differ based on certain constraints out in the field, but then also stormwater design enhancement that result in substantive alterations to the exhibits shall require approval of the city council. So any wholesale changes, we will have to bring it back.
Remind me tomorrow. Yes.
Reboot. Ready to reboot.
Letter C, as part of the platting process, we need detailed plans. That's expected anyway, but this is just to reiterate that. And the drainage shall not impact adjacent development. Letter D shall be required to provide public pedestrian access from Lavaca Trail. There is a trail on the eastern side. However, they also will provide public pedestrian access to their trails interior to their development. I know that that's kind of a practice that they have in their existing legacy neighborhood, but this will require that as part of the plat. It'll probably be through a note. Letter E, this was discussed at the last meeting, requiring similar quality of that of Phase 1 or Legacy with this neighborhood so that there's some consistency. I know that that is the intent of the developer, but this is just to have language written in to reiterate that. Yeah. And F, a certification note to be provided on the final plat for signature by the Public Works Director to certify that the drainage has been installed correctly. We've been trying to implement something similar to that already, but this will have a specific certification note that will be signed by our Public Works Director at the final plat process. Again, for single-family uses, shall meet the R20 district requirements. The open space is one thing that did have to be addressed with the PUD. The typical standard is 20%. However, this is only providing 11.3%, so this is just to state that that is approved as part of this approval. And all amenities to be maintained by the homeowners association. Private streets, this will be a private street subdivision. I think that was one of the main impetuses for going to the PUD. But that we added the clarifying statement that the HOA shall be responsible for the financial cost of the streetlights. That was something that the mayor asked to be added. And
Ben,
yeah.
Excuse me, Ben. Interrupt just very briefly. It also means they're responsible for drainage and streets and everything else. That's just in there specifically for the streetlights, right?
Right, that clarifying language was only for streetlights.
Okay.
Being a
But
private street.
they are
that means
responsible for
yes.
everything else too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, the only thing they may not be responsible for is some sewer and water transmission lines that are on the property,
Oh, okay,
the mains, rather than the
okay,
services.
thank you.
Right, so
Thank you.
if it's in a public easement, then the city would be responsible, but
Okay.
otherwise they would be.
Thank you.
And then 7 is just to identify that there are some agreements that had been made with adjacent neighborhoods, which have also been attached as Exhibit C to the ordinance itself.
Okay.
And I believe those are the changes. We did send notices out to surrounding property owners. Again, we did take it back to Planning and Zoning Commission. They recommended approval again, and tonight is second reading and final approval for this development.
Okay. Could you go back to the last page of the ordinance? Yeah, right there. So I have two questions, and there may be others, but then in 7A, attached as Exhibit C are the agreements with neighboring property regarding drainage, landscaping, fencing, et cetera. So the intention there was to ensure through this zoning that those agreements were incorporated to ensure that they would be done. I was talking to the city attorney this afternoon. The agreements are attached, but I know the ones that we have, a couple of them do not have signed, dated version. So I wanted to be sure that we have those, or we need to get those so that those are the ones that are part of the ordinance.
So we will have to get those.
Okay.
Those were the ones that were handed to us at
Yeah.
a city council meeting, and I just scanned those.
Okay.
So I know that, well, the applicant is here, he can,
Yeah. So let me go
Speak
ahead and
to
ask
as
him
far
then.
as- yeah.
Since, I assume that you have those.
You assume that I have,
We're talking about the 7A, that's where we attach the exhibits. You have created agreements with, several agreements with your neighbors,
yes, sir.
and that's the reason they are supporting this. And we wanted to be sure that, we said earlier, the strategy all along was to attach those to the PUD so that they're actually enforceable two ways. They need to be actual agreements that are signed by both parties, which becomes contracts that are enforceable external to the city, but then we're attaching them to the PUD, which gives the city a force of authority to also enforce them as well. But so they weren't signed. We didn't have those executed documents. Just needed copies of them.
There are some that are signed.
Okay.
There are some that are executable.
Yeah.
I don't have those here
Okay.
tonight, and some of them have not. Those are what we've agreed to.
Okay.
I can get them in an executable form.
Okay, so that answers my question, because then my recommendation and our motion would be then to make, there's going to be a motion to approve, make
Yes, sir.
that approval contingent upon the city getting those executed documents.
No
And that
problem.
will cover it, that's what we want.
No,
And
sir.
you don't have to have them tonight, but,
Yeah, that's no
Okay.
problem.
all right, very good,
Because I think what's attached is,
yeah.
I tried to make them in a common format,
Yeah.
but then when they get
Yeah.
sent back to people, some of the fonts are different, but
Yeah.
those are the agreements.
Yeah, well, so I've kind of stated what we need.
Yes, sir.
executable, then they're stand on their own, plus they're in the ordinance, so they stand there too. I got one more question for you. Could you go back 2 pages in this? I think it's 2. Yeah, E, I think it's E. Yeah, it's similar. So the other thing I'd talked about, and we had talked about is, this is kind of the equivalent development of what's across the street. And so we talked about in the intention of that statement, and you've said, hey, it's going to be the same standards, same CCRs, HOA, and all that kind of stuff. E is written general enough, so I've got a question, and that is, so the style and materials of the subdivision perimeter fencing and the entryway, the intention of that conversation, one of them was, okay, for that to be the same and look the same, have the same quality. And
Yeah,
so,
my hope is that when you either come from the west,
Yeah.
precinct line, or you come from the east, Remington Park,
yeah,
you're not thinking you're driving through 2 independent developments. You're driving through a cohesive development.
right,
It will be the exact same stone.
okay,
It will be the exact same wrought iron and wrought iron style.
Okay.
The same vendors, okay?
great,
The landscape design
Yeah.
is being done on the existing, the same
Yeah.
installer
Okay.
is going to be doing it. So
So-
it's going to look the same.
okay, so a question for you. So you've said all the things I would hoped you would say, and I thought you would say, which you said, hey, it's gonna be the same stone, it's gonna look the same landscape design, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
So what we have to be, and I don't really expect this to happen, but it doesn't matter, we have to think of these contingencies. If, for instance, for whatever reason, you sold that, somebody else bought it before development.
Fireman doesn't get to me on time.
Yes,
I missed the 3-minute
Yes.
window.
There you go.
then somebody, yeah, then
Well, I know
somebody,
it's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, we certainly
sir.
pray that doesn't happen.
you.
But somebody else would then be developing this according to these standards. So I want to be sure, so you understand, and we've just talked about what that means, but an independent party that doesn't have this equity in these discussions, they need to interpret it the same. So that could be tightened up a little bit to simply say what you said. Hey, that fencing, the material, the quality is going to be the same, it's going to be the same design, it's going to be the same wrought iron fencing. We could simply add that in, then it removes any question.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I don't know what you need to do tonight, but I would
Okay.
assume,
Yeah,
I've been here in other places.
Yeah.
When you do your motion, you just
Yes.
incorporate and I would think the things that I would say to you that will make it the same
yeah,
would be the masonry materials,
yep,
the fencing and wrought iron materials, the palette of landscape materials, i.e. plants, shrubs, and grasses. If we do those, there's more, but those 3 things, if you do those, I can assure you won't go down the road and see anything
yeah,
different.
okay. I hope you were listening, were you? Okay, so that's great. Yeah, when we make the motion, we're trying to incorporate. In fact, we may try to structure a statement while we're still talking, so don't have to.
And I would
remember
even
that.
say this, I probably shouldn't volunteer for this.
Yeah,
I've got to get a permit for my landscape and sprinkler. I've got to
Yeah.
get a permit for the columns and the fences.
Mhm.
And if you want to make it that it just doesn't meet the minimums, like if you come in here and I was
Yeah.
getting a fence permit, you just want me to meet the minimum standard,
Mm.
okay? I don't mind you imposing in this ordinance
Yeah.
that y'all can say, make a judgment, is this what's across the
Yep.
street? I'm telling you it will, but I don't mind you imposing that on
Okay.
me, that you will
Okay.
make that part of the approval.
Okay, we will attempt to do that before we're through. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. While he's up there, any other questions that you guys may have for?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for
Yeah.
going through the process. And then we requested you to go back to P&Z, and you did those things. And we recognize that you build a quality home and the subdivisions and stuff. And just thank you for being patient with us and doing the due diligence, not only for us, but for the citizens that have had concerns. And I appreciate all the opposition and the 4 letters that are in here. It was a big deal, and you guys stepped out and really did a great job, Mr. Makis. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby.
Mayor, one suggestion, we could, under E, just to kind of capture what was said, E could begin, this is 2E in the ordinance, at a minimum, the masonry, landscaping, entranceway, and residential architectural features shall be of a similar quality to that of the and then it continues on.
Yeah, I wanted to say the stone's gonna be the same, the wrought iron, like he said it,
Why don't we
'cause that
say-
gets more specific.
Instead of saying similar, I think we
Yeah.
should say identical.
Well, yes, the only one caveat there is that stone
Yes.
are discontinued, or they're not the same lot, or they're not, so you just gotta be careful about saying it's exact, because
Okay.
Well, yeah, but, yeah, that's an error then, I mean,
How
what
about
is the
say
stone?
of the same
What is it?
quality?
The
How if we
stone-
say
same-
of the same
column-
quality
that's fine.
instead of similar?
The
I like the word same.
The stone columns
Yeah.
and the masonry features right now are millsap stone.
Man, that's gonna be around forever.
And I think I can go back to that same quarry.
Yeah, no, millsaps are around forever, guaranteed.
It just, today, because we're getting to the bottom of so many pits,
Yeah.
it is a little, there's some subtle difference.
Some differences, sure.
Yeah,
And they look different.
But you get it.
Shades.
Yeah, I get it, yeah,
So-
And paint's gonna fade, and so you just realize that. We'll get it as soon.
yeah.
So Mayor, to maybe address the issue, it would say then, at a minimum, the masonry, landscaping, entranceway, and residential architectural features shall be of the same quality. Is that okay?
How about wrought iron fencing? Did you say fencing?
Well, here, the only reason I'm hedging on you a little bit, that's a good statement, but it can be of the same quality, but the design can be different. And he's after, hey, should look the same,
And look,
you know,
The guy that's actually gonna be drawing the pretty pictures, what he said
yeah.
is to add the term "and look."
And the look, there you
The
go.
look, okay.
I buy
Okay.
that.
And
Is
look,
that good then?
Yeah, I buy that.
So, just to read it again, at a minimum, the masonry, landscaping, entranceway, fencing, and residential architectural features shall be of the same quality and look.
there you go.
As, and then continue on, as Phase 1 south of Lavaca, this shall apply to both home construction and stuff, you know.
Then he added one other item, and that was that when the permits will be issued, that those will be reviewed by the city staff before approving the permits.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's smart, because if there's any disagreement, you want to know it right then before you build it.
yes, sir.
Okay?
Okay,
I like it.
okay. Anything else, anyone? Okay,
Thank you.
we're ready to open a public hearing. I haven't done that yet. I want to open a public hearing is open. We have any cards?
No, sir.
We have no cards. Anyone wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating they want to speak, so unless I see someone, I'm going to close public hearing. Still see no one, I'm going to close public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I ask that we approve ordinance O-19-2075 with the caveat of the, what do you want to call that?
Or additional language that city manager,
Ditto what you just said.
I'll second.
okay, have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem that includes the additional language that we just discussed, and a second by Councilmember Nakamura, I think.
Mayor, can I read the record
Yes.
just to be safe?
Yes, so you can read that in the record.
So 2E then would read, at a minimum, the masonry, landscaping, entranceway, fencing, and residential architectural features shall be of the same quality and look as that of Phase 1 south of Lavaca Trail. Developer permits shall be issued in compliance with these standards.
Very good. I have one request to ask you guys to modify your motion a little bit. Earlier, I talked about those agreements. We need the signed executed documents. Need to add that too.
You're right,
That
Matt.
requirement needs to be contingent upon having the signed executed document.
I do agree to add that to my proposal for the approval of the ordinance, please.
Councilmember Nakamura, do you agree on the second?
You approve the second?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. Everybody understand that motion then? City manager just read the additional language, and I just stated the need, it's going to be contingent upon having those executed documents that we can attach to the ordinance.
Plus
We
the
good on that?
verbiage.
Okay.
One question. Approval of item B, approval from the city of preliminary and final plat accordance. Okay, that's
that's
not the one we were talking about.
that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have to
No, I
get,
think it's a different, yeah. Okay.
He's gonna have to get final plat approval by this council before he can go forward with the development.
Okay,
That's
Yeah.
what it's saying.
that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot.
it's in the-
Yeah, so we talked about earlier the preliminary plat. So this says it's gonna come back to us, the
Yes,
platting will
before.
come back to us.
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
Understand.
because that's in our land development code now.
Yep.
Right.
Please clarify, I'm not understanding.
This, you do not have a final plat with this project?
Item B.
zoning?
And actually, let me go back a little bit. So earlier in the day, actually, between this meeting and executive session, me and George were looking at this, and in the ordinance, in fact, go back one page. I don't know if it's not in here. Let me read it. 2A, that's not,
2B, I mean,
2A.
2A, here it is, 2A. So the second line, so the street layout and arrangement of lots of the subdivision shall be general consistent with the zoning exhibit labeled as Exhibit B, which shall not be considered the preliminary plat. So we have no plat here. We only have a conceptual design. So, and I remember talking about this last time, that, hey, why isn't it the preliminary plat right now? And a while ago, you said, yeah, we're gonna approve the final plat. So that's what George is bringing
Yeah,
up.
right.
I neglected to think about that again. So that's the question.
sure.
I mean, seems like there's nearly everything here to be one, and it was,
That's kind of
Am I
what my
missing it?
assumption was, that we already had just about
Yeah.
every piece of information they
Yeah,
had.
that's,
Approved.
Good.
yeah.
so,
appreciate-
so why is that phrase, which shall not be considered preliminary plat? Why is that phrase in there?
I think the question would be, Ben, what's short of it being a preliminary plat? What's missing?
So the preliminary plat is that technical document for the design of the subdivision. So it's a lot more detailed than what you see with the development plan. Preliminary plat also gives authorization to go forward with the construction documents for the street and the public utilities, so water lines and sewer lines. So it's just a separate step that is related to zoning, but at the same time, it's not part of zoning. And so it's just to state that the development plan is not the preliminary plat. They still have to go through our process as outlined in chapters 8 and 9 to go through that plat process.
So your answer is, there's not enough detailed information in the engineering related to the utilities and other facets on the document to meet the preliminary plat qualifications. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'll say that.
Okay,
You
let me,
don't have to, I'm just asking.
so let me ask one other question. I understood what you said. What, I heard you say, hey, we haven't gone through those lists, those checklists, the internal staff.
Yeah, we're in process, actually. That's how we found
Yeah.
out about the zoning.
So, I'd like to ask a question. And it's not a trick question,
Oh,
great question.
I
So,
can't answer it, I won't answer it.
so, Ben's staff is going through that list now. Are you gonna be doing, do you have to do any additional information or any new modifications to give to him for him to complete that, or
No,
not?
s- No, sir. And as I
Okay.
listened to y'all make the conversation, when we started this back in April
Yes,
of 18,
right,
that's what we originally did, was a preliminary plat.
Okay.
Okay? Then when we converted to this being a zoning case,
yeah,
what we have given you tonight as the zoning exhibit,
mm-hmm,
that is our preliminary plat without a lot of the detail.
okay,
And just so you know,
yeah,
I think we're on our 5th review. We just
Yes.
got comments back from
Yeah.
them this
Yeah.
week. So y'all wouldn't think I'm trying to, I don't think you do, but so there wouldn't be a perception of tricking
Yeah.
or anything.
yeah.
Our preliminary plat is exactly what you're seeing.
Okay, so that answered my question. So so Ben, I think I understand. Let me state it, see if I'm correct. So what I've heard is they've done what they're gonna do, and you guys have it. I do appreciate what I just heard you say. Hey, I being you or your staff, we got some steps we still need to go through internally to meet our process, and we haven't finished that yet.
Correct.
So that's why you want that statement in there.
Right. What that does is it lets everybody know that there's still some additional steps that have to happen, formal steps.
Okay.
it'll go to Planning and Zoning Commission and then to you guys as an approval for a preliminary plat.
Okay,
So that's where you get the technical documents.
Okay,
uh,
so,
Which, like you said, we're pretty close.
okay, so George, I'm personally comfortable with where we're at. I understand
I
where
am
we're at.
too.
But what I would like, and I've said this before and kind of pushing, now this is internal, not related, this is a general statement. I would like when we get PUDs, that PUD, when we approve it, is, we don't have that phrase in it. It is a preliminary plat. So that's just part of our process of where are we when we do that approval. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So I think what he's saying is they will come back with a preliminary plat, right, for the council,
Preliminary
planning and
final
zoning
plat.
and the council, and then they'll come back again for a final
Yeah.
plat.
They may
So
do
we
them
will
both at the
see
same
this
time.
at least 2 more times.
Well, no, they could do them both at the same time. They could come for preliminary and final at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would suspect in this case, I'm guessing it'll probably be what you say. Otherwise, we got 2 iterations.
I agree.
Okay.
Just because it sounds like we're in a learning moment, all of us.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So you get a preliminary plat approved.
Mm.
They then, through the process with our engineer, with our surveyor, they approve all our design. Most of the time, you then go, we will develop it, put all the infrastructure in. They really don't want you to do and I don't know about, I say them, most cities, and I think y'all are the same, they don't want your final plat approved and done until you're through with the infrastructure. As an example, some new data company comes out with this whiz-bang fast stuff, and we didn't know about it, and they need an easement. They want us to do the final plat after. It's kind of one final look if there's any new easements, new activities. So that's why they separate them. And I'm fine bringing you a preliminary and a final at the same time, but I doubt they want us to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask another
I'll do
question.
whatever you want me to do.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
Hey, don't ask me a
Yeah,
question, you don't want to know the answer.
No, I appreciate your comment, I really do.
Yeah.
So back, now I'm gonna go back to George's question then. Ben, so, it's a process question now. So if we leave that in there and technically, even though he's got the information, we don't have the preliminary plat yet. Once you guys make that determination, does it have to come to us as a preliminary plat?
Yes.
It
And then-
does. It
Yeah,
does
it's a
because
separate-
we made
it's
the
a-
change
Yes.
in the,
Well, even more generally, you have separate applications and processes. This, right now, we're just dealing with a
Zoning.
zoning change application. We also have a plat process, so it's a
Right.
separate application, separate
Right.
fee. Sometimes you'll see them come together at the same
Yep.
time, a zoning change and the plat's on the same agenda. They chose not to do that because of the potential for
Mhm.
not being approved, and so they didn't
Okay.
want to spend the money on the
Okay.
plat at this time to wait and see
Okay.
what happens with the zoning.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a lot of that information because they started the plat process in this
Right.
case. And,
Right.
you know, as far as the PUDs and the preliminary plat, since this started as a straight request to R20, but then was changed to a PUD, that's why we don't have the preliminary
Yeah.
plat for this one.
And I appreciate all that stuff. So if we're all in agreement, I mean, I understand it, I think George
now we're-
understands it.
now you will be coming back with the
Yeah.
preliminary plat,
Right,
and
Right.
then finally a final.
right.
Okay.
Yep, okay, we're
Thank you
good.
very much.
Everybody, so it's all straight up, transparent, everybody knows what's gonna happen. That's
My motion
that's
still
good. That's one
stands.
thing I was
I
at.
agree.
Okay, very good. Now, we have a motion on the table for approval with the
Correct.
caveats in a second, so we're ready to vote.
Yep.
You may show it whenever you got it. Okay, the motion's approved, therefore the ordinance is approved. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move to agenda item 7A. 7A is a first reading and public hearing, so there's no action tonight. of ordinance O-19-2076, consideration of a special use permit for food packaging and manufacturing on Lot 8R, Block 1 of the Colleyville Industrial Park located at 1904 Industrial Boulevard, Suite 103, case ZC 18-036.
All right, thank you. So this is specifically for cookies, crumbs, and crust. They are a business that specializes in high-end cookies. They want to locate here in Colleyville off of Industrial Boulevard in one of the suites at this location, 1904, Suite 103. The current zoning is our light manufacturing district, and in this district for food preparation and packaging, it does require a special use permit. This use does require baking, and so that's the production part of it, and they will also do the packaging here as well. It is part of the Colleyville Boulevard corridor, so it does fit within the future land use designation. As far as the special use permit, these are the regulations as proposed, as written. So there is an exhibit. Really, it's just the floor plan of the suite space. But the hours of operation as proposed is Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. A minimum of 5 parking spaces. There is sufficient parking on this site to allow for that. And then as standard language, this special use permit shall automatically expire upon the abandonment of the business, change in the use, change in the ownership, or upon the expiration or termination of the certificate of occupancy. We've been using that language consistently. And then finally, all other requirements of the Land Development Code shall be met. One thing I did want to highlight, and you'll see this in the statement of planning objectives, but these cookies are a very high-end specialty cookie. They currently they are sold in Chip and Joanna's Magnolia Table and Silos Bakery, at Neiman Marcus, and at Central Market. And then other clients include the Watermark Church, Bent Tree Church, and South Lake Carroll School District. So she's looking to relocate into Colleyville. She has a good business, we feel. We did send notices out to surrounding property owners. Did not receive any responses back on this one. And then staff recommends approval. This did also go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they recommend approval as well. With that, I can answer any questions.
Is this the building that was approved like a couple of years ago?
Right. It was Truly Foods. So they didn't do any cooking. It was really just assembly for them. She will bring in an oven for this, but it's just for baking.
Okay, understand.
I have a concern. We're going to need some Grapevine Colleyville cookies also, you know, not just
Right.
Carol.
We got to do more than Carol.
Just got to say.
Hopefully the applicant is listening.
I think so.
I did love her, as I was going through the
Samples
packet.
too, right?
As I was going through the packet, I did love her story and the things that she talked about, how acclaimed she is. It's pretty neat to have that she wanted to come to Colleyville to have her business, so I hope she is listening. I'm very happy that you're looking at us.
Yep.
Very good.
Great.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. Do I have any cards? Anyone wish to speak on this item? Come ahead. Just state your name and address, please.
Jill Marks, the owner of Cookies, Crumbs, and Crust.
There you
Good evening,
There you
City
go.
Council members. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be part of the Colleyville business community. I'm very excited. My team is very excited. We're working in a very small kitchen, and we're looking forward to having more room.
Very
So
good.
I appreciate the consideration.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ben.
thank you.
Any questions?
Anybody have questions?
Just about those cookies. No.
They're gonna want cookies.
Yeah, the
Thank
next
you.
meeting is when we decide yes or no.
Oh, sound like a bribe.
I didn't ask
No,
for a
no,
bribe.
no, yeah, no, you just made a statement, right? Okay, anyone else wish to speak? See no one else indicating that, so I'm gonna close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. This is the first reading, so there's no action tonight, so thank you for coming. So we'll move to agenda item number 7B. 7B is first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2077, consideration of a special use permit for warehouse and distribution facilities on Lot 1R1A, Block 1 of the West Industrial Edition, located at 6705 Colleyville Boulevard, case ZC 18-037.
All right, thanks. Another special use permit, this one for warehouse and distribution facilities. This is for Auto Ricambi, which is the Fiat specialty parts store. They currently are located at 6707, but they have purchased this building at 6705. They've really just outgrown their existing building, and what they'd like to use is a portion of this building for their storage of a lot of their supplies. The glass business will also remain in the building. They'll occupy the front portion, and then their warehouse and storage place will be on the back portion of this building. It is also zoned ML Light Manufacturing, and then the designation, again, is Colleyville Boulevard Corridor, so it does conform to that. So the language for the special use permit, so the special use permit shall apply to the exhibits as attached. One is the site plan itself exhibit, and then also they did provide some exhibits identifying some proposed building enhancements, which we'll get to as well in here. So they are investing in the community, and so we feel that this is a good use for that. In letter B, no storage of parts or containers shall be allowed outside the building, so everything shall be conducted indoors. Letter C, like I was just stating, facade improvements shall be made prior to a certificate of occupancy for the proposed use, and they shall be reviewed and approved by the city manager's office and the city council. I know that they have initiated the facade improvement grant process, so hopefully you guys have heard of that for them. So then also standard language, special use permit shall automatically expire upon the abandonment of the business, changing the use, changing the ownership, or expiration or termination of the CO. Letter E shall comply with land development code. And then letter F, this also was an attempt to reiterate about the improvements, not only to the building, but also to the site with landscaping, also the facade material enhancements, but referencing those exhibits that they've provided.
Okay.
And so we do have a few exhibits. So this is, again, is the site. Their warehouse storage will be on the back portion, and then the glass business will stay in the front. And then they do have some exhibits for what the building hopefully will look like here in the near future. So the middle line is what we see today, and that bottom will be what to expect, with that top kind of being that bird's eye view of that. So you can see not only building, but also in landscape improvements as well.
Very good.
That's what we have today. So
Good.
we did send notices out to surrounding property owners,
Yeah.
and I don't think that we did not receive any responses back on this one either. And so staff does recommend approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval. They were the ones that asked that the language for the facade enhancements be added to the ordinance.
Okay, very good.
Ben?
Yeah.
Quick question. If you can go back to the listings, item F, there on the bottom. Is there some reason why this says approval of the ordinance is contingent upon or come closer to the standards? Why don't we require being up to our standards?
Well, we won't be able to get to all of them. There are some, we just approved the articulation requirements.
Right.
Being an existing building, there may not be any way for them to meet that, especially with vertical articulation.
Okay.
So closer to those, that's why we wrote it that way, to come closer.
My suggestion would be to write it with the indicating the standards that won't be met. In other words, is that possible?
So at this point, I don't have all the information as far as what will be approved for the facade improvements. And so it's hard for me to be specific at this time.
Yeah, I think
guess-
maybe, so it does reference exhibits B and C, which I assume are those facade improvements.
Right, what we just,
So, I mean, this is first reading, so I think by the time we get to the next meeting, I agree. I think we can probably tighten this up, probably around what those improvements are gonna be.
Okay.
You know, we can
mean-
kind of make it contingent upon those.
Or contingent upon the architect drawings that we see.
Yeah, I think that probably the intent of this statement is worded a little funny, but I know where you're going. I think.
I don't
we
like
can-
the
I think we-
idea.
Yeah, I think we can get there. We'll have to modify.
I've
it
come
a little bit.
closer.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
words kind of
now that I think
Yeah.
about it, I think I wrote F before we wrote C,
Yeah,
and it's probably one where I
Yeah.
don't know that we need F.
okay.
Well, maybe we can take something from F and add to C, or I don't know, we can
Yeah.
think about a way to resolve
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Just make it a contingent upon the exhibits attached,
yeah.
Correct.
the renderings, that's all you gotta
Yeah.
do.
And that's where with letter C, it specifically identifies what's approved by the city manager's
Yeah.
office and city
Yeah.
council.
Yeah, so I think that can be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are the applicants here?
Yes.
Love to meet you.
My name is Ramsey Gillespie. I moved to the wrong city 15 years ago. I moved to Grapevine.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just on the other side of the.
oh, good.
We expect you to move this way.
Would you state,
How do you know?
hey, would you state your name and address, please, sir?
Ramsey Gillespie, 3317 Stonecrest Drive, Grapevine, Texas, 76051.
You just answered my first question. Are you a Colleyville resident?
So
You wish
don't-
as you-
don't hold it against me.
Don't push
We
it.
like those people
Everything here.
too.
I do everything here. I mean, I just drive across Pool.
Pool.
There you go.
We're happy to do whatever we need to. We want to stay in this community. I started this business about 2 blocks away from here in my mother's garage 10, 12 years ago. It blew up. We did good, and it's a niche. And
Great.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I
It's-
kind of wanted to hear about
no,
it.
it's a goofy thing. It was a hobby when I was in college, and
Yeah,
it's just it's gone. You know, I've got 3 people that work here. We're about to hire another one. We've got 2 people that work remotely for us.
Yeah.
It's good, and
yeah.
we enjoy this community, and we want to stay here. What I really wanted, Kathy and I have talked about this. That is the ugliest part of Colleyville Boulevard.
Yes,
And I don't like it. I don't like going to work there. I mean, I do, but I wanted to make it better. I want to be part of this community. I'm going to live here for as long as y'all have me, unless I have to have an officer come save my life. But I like it here. I really
Great.
do.
very
And
good.
we just do whatever we can to.
Yeah, we appreciate that. You know, you have the same heart we have about trying to get things done. I really, it's intriguing to me. I mean, this is a successful entrepreneurial story, right?
It's wonderful.
And it's great. And one reason I'm really interested is, one thing we want to do in the city is the old Wachovia Bank building. One of our
Yeah,
plans and
look at that
discussions is
too.
kind of create an entrepreneurial activity using that in the chamber. So that's why every time I see something that I know is a successful entrepreneur in Colleyville, it's great.
It's
That's
a
part
great
of the
place
story.
to do business. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all, we just got a new driveway today. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great. And
So your business is real specific to one model of
it is
Fiat.
one car built from 66 to 85. It's a little convertible Italian sports car. Wasn't real expensive.
Yeah.
Wasn't real fancy. It's got a little bit of a following globally. You know, there's probably about 10,000 in the world.
Okay.
You know,
What all do y'all make? What parts do y'all make?
we don't manufacture anything there. We do some
Okay.
R&D there, but we have stuff. We have things manufactured in some stuff here in the U.S., some stuff in Asia,
Okay.
a lot of stuff in Italy and
Okay.
Germany and
Yeah.
some places like that. But seat cushions and upholstery.
Yeah. So all the aftermarket stuff you need to fix one up again and restore. Yeah, that's great.
If you're a middle-aged idiot with
Yeah.
a couple extra bucks, that's what I did. And if there's anything I can answer on the building,
Yeah.
architect-
Anybody have any questions?
No.
There's one minor change that I was just telling Steve about. There's an awning we have for the 6707 building that extends into the driveway.
I see
Not a driveway, but the pass-through between the
Path.
buildings. We
Yeah.
probably need to cut that back a little bit in case,
Delivery
Yeah.
truck.
Oh, sure.
you might think
I noticed
we just
that.
thought about that the other day. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
We're proud to have you here.
Thank
Really,
you.
truly.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you
really
for
are.
investing into
thank
Colleyville.
y'all. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a
It's
great.
gonna look, it looks fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, I feel good. Thank you so much.
We're not trying to nitpick everything. We just want to, we want to make it,
If George didn't nitpick, he didn't like it. So it's a sign of love.
oh, okay.
When you said with some and closer, I
Yeah.
agree with you. I mean, that's, we're gonna pull somebody to to their feet to the fire on something. Why not? That's just.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I don't have any problem with any of it.
Okay,
Sure.
very good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think I've opened the public.
Is the right word shall?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm going to open a public hearing. Public hearing is open.
No cards.
I have no cards. There's only 2 people out there that can speak. And I see no one indicating they want to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Okay, that was first reading, no action. So I'm going to go, as Mrs. Hennessy has a card for citizen comments, I'm going to go to agenda item 8 so we can let her speak.
Dumb.
And so, Mrs. Hennessy.
No.
Good evening, Kathleen Hennessy, 5013 Stonebridge Drive
First, you brought this picture
in
up.
Colleyville. Pardon?
Yeah, you brought this picture up. Y'all didn't see this picture.
Yes,
But I
yeah.
thought it's associated with their item, so I was trying to figure out what kind of part.
Oh, I'm going to, all will be revealed. Okay.
This is a part for the car, right?
Yeah.
First, I really appreciate you coming out when the state, and missing the State of the Union address. That's,
I know.
so you'll have to watch it about 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, the issue brought to me by several neighbors on Stonebridge Drive in Colleyville, we've had 9 roofs replaced in the last 2.5 months. And there were 3 roofing companies. One roofer did 7 roofs, and then there were 2 other contractors that only did 1 each. And we have been deluged with problems with screws and pieces of metal that have, I'll just show you the 2 small screws in the middle were in my tires, and each cost $35.60 to have removed.
Wow.
The one on the right, the screw on the right, was in a neighbor's tire, and the tire had to be replaced. The nail on the left was actually also in a neighbor's tire, and that also had to be replaced. The piece of metal at the top had fallen off. It was just on the sidewalk. And one of the neighbors has grandchildren, and if you look at the very sharp pointed edge on the left, that actually caused a cut in one of the grandchildren's feet as they were.
Yeah.
It went right through the tennis shoes, right into there. So the issue is, in all this time, all these 2.5 months and 9 roofing contracts, we didn't see anybody from the city. And what we're asking for, and we'd ask for it not just for Stonebridge Drive, but maybe for throughout the city, is perhaps a plan for better supervision of roofing contractors. Because they come and they have what they call a cleanup crew, but the cleanup crews that I saw did not arrive until after 9 o'clock at night. It was pitch dark. There's no way they could have seen all the dangerous debris. They also another problem is that the tops of these screws have no slots in them. The reason I don't know why they don't have them. They seem to have been ground off. I can see grinding marks on. But this means that when they go to remove gutters or other fascia, they can't just unscrew them. So they just pull them, so they fly everywhere. And that appears to be the problem. The neighbors on Stonebridge Drive have no answer for this, but we're hoping that you will have an answer. But we do ask that there be more supervision of roofing contractors. None of us saw anybody from the city all the time that they were doing the roofing. They come early in the morning, they don't go till late at night, and they don't speak, most of the people working don't speak English. Luckily I speak Spanish, so I went around asking some questions about, well, you know, who was there a oficiale here? And they said, no, nobody's come. So from the workers, they tell me that there were no officials there, city officials. So our request is, would you please look at better and tighter supervision of roofing contractors? And one of the contractors, and this is secondhand from one of the neighbors, she checked and she couldn't find that they even had a permit, a city permit. So we need to maybe look at a tighter supervision. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all the cards we have for citizen comments. So we are now ready to move back to 6A, but before we do that, I want to take a 5 to 10 minute recess. So we release this.
Okay, and do we say it's at your risk? I don't like what you've done. Okay, let's say four say that.
Fourth grade teacher there.
Four say that.
Well, that's exactly right. It works. It's just doing it, right? Like getting all the stuff.
No, I'm not.
Okay. We don't hurry, Adrian's gonna lose.
You know, the back of the machine.
Do it, Ben. Let's see this go.
George is still in the restroom, hurry.
Okay, go.
Yeah, signs, Ben, signs, come on.
We love signs.
All right.
Signs everywhere, there's signs.
Sign on.
Oh, wait on Tammy.
Now it's gonna be burger.
Yeah. Well, she was just here.
She's here.
Okay, got her back.
She's limping.
Okay, I'm reconvening the meeting at 9:28. We're now at agenda item 6A.
Thank you.
Oh, I have,
Oh,
this is second reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2074. Consideration of amendments to the Land Development Code, specifically Chapter 7, sign regulations. There you go, Ben.
Thank you. So we did go through this in detail last time. It was a couple meetings ago, actually. So we're going to try and go through this quickly, and I'll highlight the changes that I made from last meeting to this meeting.
Okay.
But we'll go page by page. So I'm starting on page 1. No additional change from the last time you saw this. Same with page 2. But on page 3, there was an additional change. It's related to letter K, the electronic message signs along state highways. I've actually stricken that, and the reason for that is because of a change that we'll see here in the next few pages. We had talked about the pole signs along State Highway 121, and we actually eliminated the electronic portion there. So this statement, letter K, is no longer needed. So if we're not going to allow them to begin with, then we don't need to have this statement here.
Okay.
No other changes on page 3. No new changes on page 4. No new changes on page 5. I just do want to highlight that we do have the brightness limitations there in letter D, illumination.
Hey, Ben, just
Yeah.
real quick, what page are you guys on your packet?
7.5, well,
7.4, 7.5? Okay.
Yeah.
I can find it. Sorry, I forgot it was all the way at
Oh,
the very
yeah.
top. I went through my whole packet and we moved this
Oh,
back
yeah.
up top. Okay.
I don't know what PDF page number it is.
Yeah, I'm on 7.5.
7.5.
Oh, you are, okay.
Good. Yes, sir.
7.5.
Thank you.
But no additional change from
So
last time we saw
a
that.
question, on 7.5G has been struck, and that's the corner visibility on commercial driveways. I don't remember when we did that.
So we have a setback that's 8 feet from the property line to
Yeah.
begin with. And so that gives you 8 feet plus the parkway before you get to the street itself. And
Okay.
so it's saying it's a 15-foot visibility triangle. A lot of times that's the only place for a monument sign because of the parking that they have close to the street. And in my opinion, it's just not needed because we have that 8 feet plus the parkway. You can pull forward of the monument sign. The monument sign's back far enough to where there's not a visibility issue. Whereas in letter G, or the one next to it, is the street intersection.
Yeah.
That's very critical because that's an actual major intersection. Sometimes it's got
But-
lights.
Well, when you talk about the 8 foot, are you talking about along 26 or?
Along any street. So if they're on 26 or on Glade or on Precinct Line,
Yeah.
the closest that a sign can be to that front property line is 8 feet. The leading edge has to be at least 8 feet from the property line. And then there's the additional parkway,
Right.
which is the grass area from the property line to the actual street itself. So you're really closer to 20 feet to begin with. So the car's pulled up far enough to where the sign's not causing a visibility issue.
Okay, so if you, I'm looking at this little illustration that shows the triangle drawn at that driveway going to the street. So because that's a 15-foot triangle, the triangle on the driveway part is 15 foot back from the edge of the road, the curb, right?
No, it's from the property line.
Proper that street right away.
Well, it says, oh, okay, property
Property
line, I got you. Street right of way. Well,
You have that.
so you're saying there's 8 foot everywhere, but is that really true? I mean,
That's, well,
it's.
if it was built in the last many years, several years, it
Yeah,
needs an 8-foot setback from the front property line,
Plus the street right away.
plus the parkway width. Yeah.
yeah, but there could be a curb right up close to the right of way. I mean, that's
You're
possible.
arguing like a taking for 26, there would be less right-of-way to work with
Yeah.
on existing.
Yeah,
buildings.
but that would be
So-
that'd be the
Yeah,
only scenario where they might have less than 8 feet.
yeah,
Or they have 8 feet but no right-of-way parkways.
Correct.
yeah,
Right.
that
Right.
could happen.
But that,
So
that'd be-
26 would be the only street that might have that, because Glade, well, I suppose one of the other streets might, but
Yeah.
that parkway is going to be much larger than what you see on 26.
Yeah, I looked at this and I don't remember where I was. I just remember in my head somewhere not too long ago, I was in a situation similar to this, and I was having to, I had to pull really close to the road to see it. And so I was just trying to visualize, are we good by taking that out completely? I mean, if there, how do we cover if there happened to be a situation where, well, it wouldn't, you still would have a sight distance problem, and, it would, may be unusual, but we couldn't do anything about it if they wanted. You understand what I'm trying to say? or
Yeah, you
not?
could say you could use the standard that Ben's talking about, but then just say, no sign shall be closer to the edge of pavement than of the roadway that they're abutting some distance, and then that way,
Could do that.
if the curb is at, or the edge of pavement is at the right-of-way line, it pushes it back artificially.
So that right away
See
would
what I'm
usually
saying?
is about, what, 3 feet? So you'd be 11 feet total if it was 8 and
Yeah,
3?
right-of-way could be 20 feet, I mean,
Yeah,
it
the-
could be a lot. It
Yeah.
depends on the road.
An average
But-
is about 10 to 12 feet.
Right, and I'm just using like a bare minimum if we had to, that little space. Yeah, 10, 12 feet. So, yeah.
Plus
See what-
the 8,
I see what city manager's
so that's
saying.
18.
So we could use the edge of the curb as the line and say,
Could.
Right,
no, no closer than 10 feet
whatever, yeah, whatever the
or
distance is.
12 feet or whatever.
That way, then that'll only apply in those weird situations where you have
Yeah.
somebody that's got no parkway.
Yeah,
It's uniform.
and I think you would have actually a caveat on that, where you would say, hey, in areas that are adjacent to a driveway, you can, in under no circumstance can it be closer than, or something.
To the pavement of the
Yeah.
roadway
Yeah.
that it's
Right.
abutting, yeah. That way, then it's only a safety net for those. who-
Yeah, safety net, that,
So
yeah.
between you and I is about 10 feet, I would think. It was
yeah.
3, 6, 9, yeah.
I would say it would need to be far enough back that, like when we were, I guess there was a sign for construction or something on John McCain, and in order for me to turn on John McCain, I couldn't see if a car was coming until it was pretty much on top of me,
Yeah.
and so we just moved the sign back a little bit and it was fine, but I don't know what the distance was
Yeah.
there, just so it's safe.
I'd recommend
Driveway
at
or
least
road.
12 feet from the edge of the right-of-way.
Yeah,
Like that,
So
Yeah.
a standard parking space is 18 feet deep.
yeah,
that's split. Yeah.
right, yeah.
I agree.
I keep, for some reason, in my head, the areas we were talking about today for those buildings in that area of 26 where those kind of crazy, those lot layouts are just crazy. you know, what I'm thinking about.
They're very, very strange, you know.
Could there be, you know, in there, and people want to start putting signs out there, whether we create a problem? I just want to avoid.
Well, and I like the idea that we're changing it to the back of the curb, or the street
Yeah.
edge, or whatever
Yeah.
we're gonna go with.
Yeah.
It gives uniformity of exactly from that area back, so.
Yeah, and I have a location of where that would make more sense to write that in,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is just on page 7-7, but,
Okay.
Cool,
All right.
excellent.
okay. So on page 7-6, no change from last time, although I do know Councilmember Linda Mood did have some final thoughts, maybe to change the dimensions for the monument signs. You brought it up at the very end. I don't know if you want, we could have that conversation, maybe we can come back to it, maybe.
I still think that's way too big. Right.
Yeah.
6.5 by 12, right?
Yeah. So there was a little homework from last time. That was, hey, I said that Road and Flower Mound looks really good. What are their signs? What are they?
The size of the signs?
Yeah.
Lauren, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I bet they're probably like 3 by 5.
Yeah.
I think
What'd you
maybe
say,
a little bit larger than that.
I bet they're
4 by
probably 3
6?
by 5 if they're right on the side of the road.
3 by 5.
4 by 8 is big, and this is 6 by 12.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I just think when we're selecting this, rather than this arbitrarily, we should have a vision of, and there's examples that we could say, hey, that's the look we like. What are the parameters that make that look, make us like that look?
I could go out and get my tape measure out of my pickup if you'd like for me to. We can measure one, so we
Yeah.
can see exactly what it is,
You
or I
can
can
see
step it
one.
off.
Yeah, and do you understand what I'm saying, though? I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
but this is.
look at it.
It depends on the distance from the road.
yeah,
The farther it's set back, the bigger it traditionally is, but that, part of the problem is you have some big monuments right up on the road.
right.
that's right.
So this is another question. So what does the Flower Mound sign ordinance say about this? How do they achieve that? What do they say?
So in Flower Mound, signs have to be ground monument signs unless an exception is provided. And they have what's called a comprehensive sign package. So when a development's coming through, you can ask for a variety of different type of signs. So a sign isn't necessarily, there are some granted by right, but some that have to be asked for as a part of that package. And so it's kind of a negotiation of sorts. So you have a listing of different types of sign types, monument, some wall signs, different things. And so there are standards, but then some of those standards can kind of be negotiated with that package.
So you
But
put them all
some-
in PUD probably, that you're saying. They're all part of a PUD.
But somehow they've accomplished a fairly consistent.
It looks like it's 10 feet tall, 10 feet wide.
Eee.
The sign area of a ground sign shall not exceed 60 square feet.
Where is
That's
this?
60,
side.
that's 6 by 10.
It's bigger than,
And that's Flower Mound, you're saying?
Flower
So
Mound.
that's probably their base level code. So what you're saying, Mayor, that you like is probably a PUD uniform sign plan that's part of the development.
Well, but,
I think
so
yeah,
the
6.
overall dimensions were big, but their sign square footage was 60. This is 78, so that's smaller.
Right, well, I'm saying you could go 4 by 8 in this and make it 48, and then you'd be smaller than them. That's
I
still the
like
size of
that.
a sheet of plywood. That's still pretty.
I like that.
4 by 8 is 32.
Would that-
32, excuse me, thank you.
Yeah. But he
My
can't-
brain is not working today.
He can't
32.
Thank you.
Well,
But it's still a sheet of plywood.
Yeah,
It's a pretty good
that's
size.
right. Sheet of plywood.
I like that. How about also adding the 18-inch columns on it, though?
The column should not draw away from the sign face.
So the sign would be 4 by 8, and then the 18-inch columns around it? Is that what you're saying, in addition?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And you want the columns to be kind of proportional, right?
Right, and I think the 18 inches is great to get that border line around it, and a 4 by 8 sheet of plywood. I think you, city manager's correct. I like that.
Okay.
So that would end up being 11 total feet wide and 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah, so 8.
That's still a pretty good sign.
Because you got 3 foot
Yep.
column.
Yeah, 3 foot for each
Right,
column on each
right.
side, and then 18 inches along the bottom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that better.
I do too.
Yeah.
What was that measurement again? 3 and 8? You're talking
Was
11?
Yes, 4 by 8, so 32 square feet. So that's 8 feet wide, add a foot and a half on either side.
It's 3.
That's where I got 11-foot total width.
Right.
And then a foot and a half, 18
5 and
inches
a
on the
half.
bottom, so up to 5 and a half
Yeah.
total height.
And so it's not a lot smaller, but it is a little smaller.
Yeah,
than what you got
a
now.
lot smaller.
Would you like a 10-foot total on the width, or
Well,
do you think
I
it's
don't,
too small?
the columns, I think, actually add to the richness of it.
I'd
They-
agree.
They benefit it, so I don't think the column should be a penalty provision.
Now, you
I
could
think
do
if
a
you just count-
12-inch column.
You can just set a minimum standard on the columns and not measure it at all on the sign itself. In other words, you could have just the sign face be the standard you're defining.
But you don't want columns, or you want columns, allowing columns that are bigger than 18 inches wide, or?
Well,
Okay, well, they could. I mean,
picture like a stone structure that was really beautiful, that has a portion of the end of it is the sign.
Oh, yeah, like a tail of,
And so it could be beautifully done. The value is the sign, so the money is obviously in making it exceptionally
I agree.
beautiful.
I agree.
Didn't we,
That's
didn't we
bad.
agree to one where the only, column was only on one side
No.
Well, we
thought it was
did,
double
recently?
yeah, we
Yes.
had one recently that was,
Yeah.
yeah,
The self-storage.
yeah. And so that may happen, but that was part of a PUD as well. That was part of the uniform sign
Understand.
plan, so
Right.
Yeah.
you could have that, yeah.
Okay, I agree with the 4 by 8 sheet
So-
and
so-
18 inches at least.
Sign face with a minimum
Yeah,
18
so,
inches.
and that's still a big sign.
I agree. I think it's smaller than 16 by whatever we had to begin with. I'm not-
Yeah.
It was 8 by 14 to begin with,
Yeah, 8 by 14.
8 by
Sorry.
14 going
They closed
to,
on me.
5 and a
so
half
8 by 14 going to 5.5 by 11.5.
by 11.
11, okay. That's better.
So are we just then going to say the minimum columns are 18 inches, but the only real measurement of concern is the sign face at 4 by 8? Is that easier then?
I'd rather just state an 18-inch column.
Okay.
They can ask for a variance.
Right.
Well-
I mean, the column, I don't know that anybody would go over that, because that's extra cost.
But it's also extra quality if it's a stone material, is all I'm getting at. It might be
I see what you're saying.
a beautification issue. I agree with you.
But-
Most people are gonna do the minimum. They're gonna do the column.
So
Yeah, I
can we
mean,
just
this
say
is
the
18
minimum?
inches right here,
That's not
pretty
18.
wide.
Yeah, that's, no, 18
That's
inches.
more like 2 feet. Keep
You
going.
you went out 3 feet.
That's more like,
18 inches right there.
that's more like inches.
That's
You don't
11
want
inches.
the,
There's another 6.
you don't want the dimensions out of whack.
That's what I did.
How to fish that big.
Learn from my wife, proportions are really important.
All right.
You want the proportion to be right. You know, if somebody reduced the size sign, those columns should reduce to match
I would,
proportion.
I like that minimum, the 18-inch columns around it and an 18-inch base on it.
Yeah,
And stone,
I do
at a
too.
minimum. And after that, I think like you're saying, you,
Well, so you're saying a minimum of 18 inch for the biggest sign. But if for some reason the sign was gonna be smaller, why wouldn't we allow the column to go down proportionally with the sign?
I just think
That's
that
what
it
I mean.
uniform looking
Yeah.
to me.
Interesting question.
I think that, well, I'd almost rather see them all be the same exact size anyways. My honest opinion, that's the way they are when you drive down Main Street in Euless, which we'll be there tomorrow and send you what sign size is.
Oh,
but-
yeah, Euless, somebody was saying Euless looked
Yeah,
nice, right?
they
I
all
haven't
have the
been
same,
there.
and they're about, I think the very top of them is right at 5 foot by 8 foot. Then they-
Total, you're
yeah,
talking total, end to end.
It might be
Yeah.
10. I'll be there tomorrow, so.
Yeah. Because the next size down, you were saying 4 by 8 would be 3.5 by like 7.
You could do a square footage and let them design it how it's going to be
That's true.
shaped. As far as the square footage, then someone could come in with a sign that, I mean, has a different shape to it.
Okay.
We haven't seen much of that, but you could have the vertical slate, you know, where you have the stone slate, and then the sign has, you know, a higher element to it. There's all different ways to lay it out. Doesn't have to be horizontal.
Mm.
I think what we're looking for is the quality.
Yeah, I agree. I just think they look, I mean, if we're gonna really spruce up 26, we're gonna throw some millions you know, the landscaping,
Yeah.
this and that. I think
I agree with you.
making them look
This is
uniform down
actually
through
an
there is
important
gonna,
decision.
I don't want it to look like, I don't like it when they all look exactly the same, like they're
Oh,
so cookie cutter and.
I do, I thought it.
I don't think they will, because you're going to have different materials.
I don't
Well, I
know,
meant
it just
size.
feels- it
I'm
feels
talking about
forced.
size.
Size-wise.
Oh, size-wise.
Yeah, I don't think you want them made out of the same things.
No.
They won't be.
Some will be in stone, some in brick.
But I forgot, did we get rid of the backlit aspect of the pane on the sign face? So it's just the channels, that letters that light up, or is it the whole thing?
No.
Okay, because I think that's a bigger quality issue actually than, you know, the idea that you could have a big box, that the whole box lights up,
Yeah,
as opposed to just the letters.
yes.
And/or
Yeah,
engraved.
that, exactly, that's important.
I
That
mean,
stuff is more-
engraved stone is even
Yeah.
nice with an
Right.
external light. You can do a lot of quality things with that will go far, far greater
I,
distance.
I agree. I agree with
So,
that.
you know,
And so we haven't addressed that at all, right?
no. Well, no, we struggle with that conversation. And we were trying to strike a balance between achieving a higher level of quality but not going too far. And so we
Yeah.
went back and forth with a lot of debate. But I think if you're someone who's gonna do a monument sign that was cut stone with external lighting, you should be giving a lot more leeway than someone who's doing a simple box that lights up. And so that gets to how do you regulate quality and incentivize quality? And the only way to do it is to either institute as part of a PUD or set very low standards or a very low threshold for your standards of size and only
Hey.
allow to go bigger when they come in.
Hey,
for-
I got a thought. We have a architectural review committee that we've never used. And these people are supposed to be kind of professionals in the area. And the type of things they should do is come in and, hey, take a look at it. You know, we've changed our standard for building design and come to a different approach. Take a look at that. They could take a look at the sign stuff with, we could give them the direction, hey, we want quality, we want consistency, we want this look. Let them go grapple, you know, with, otherwise we shouldn't have the committee. We don't ever use them.
Sure.
So we could
Good idea.
do our best here, make the change, go with the smaller size, and then take an action to, okay, let's have that committee convening, give them some marching orders to take a look at some of this stuff. Does that seem reasonable? to you?
Yeah,
I like that.
And then they could spend some time on it.
Right.
I'm pulling up the ULIS code right now, but yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm fine with that too.
So if
All
I'm
right.
hearing right, go to the 4x8 with the 18 inches around it for now.
Yeah,
Please.
Okay.
And then let that group
yeah.
Okay.
advise.
If you go to page 7-7, the top, letter D is minimum setback. I think this would be the appropriate location for the minimum distance from the edge of pavement. So 8 feet from an abutting street right-of-way, however, shall be a minimum of 12 feet from edge of pavement when needed.
Where are you at? I'm sorry, I missed.
The very top of page 7-7. in
Okay.
Letter D, minimum
Oh, minimum
setback.
setback? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 8 feet from the budding street right away.
Yeah, so this is 8 feet from the right-of-way line, but then also add minimum of 12 feet from the edge of pavement. So if
Okay,
there's a
okay.
situation where there's very little
Yeah,
parkway, that might have them push it back to a 10-foot
Okay.
or so, yeah.
okay.
All right. So with what we just talked about for general business signs, those same changes I will reiterate for institutional signs. So the 32 square feet with the 18-inch masonry around it.
Okay.
I'll have to make that change. Going on to page 8. No new change from last time, but in letter C, multifamily signs, I'll have to do the same change as far as, oh no, actually, that one's still keeping 25 square feet. Never mind.
Mhm.
On letter D, however, we had done the 45 square feet. I'm assuming we want to do the same thing, bring that down to 32 square feet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, just to comment on that, I'm less concerned about the monument
Sub-
signs for the subdivisions,
Yeah.
because they tend to be more
So
quality
there's-
feature.
Yeah,
There's two types of signs that subdivisions can have. This is for a standalone lots of times if they have a divided entry, they'll want it in that median.
get
And I
it.
see that more for this style.
Yeah.
But they also allow for the signs on their perimeter
On the
fence,
walls.
the wall,
Yeah.
which is regulated separately.
Yeah, I wasn't disputing that. I'm just saying traditionally in a subdivision, the larger sign is a higher quality indicator.
Yeah.
Whereas in a commercial setting, that sign is larger for advertising and promotion.
I see.
And so the subdivision being larger is,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not as bothersome.
Right, I can't, you know, the subdivision signs tend to be nice and done well. I don't see
Okay.
any really
You
issue
don't want
with
them-
So
those.
keep this one as we have it.
Right.
Okay.
If anything, you should allow them to be bigger. Yes.
So we slightly reduced this from what it had previously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just bringing the point up. I don't have a
Okay.
problem with leaving it where you changed
So
it.
45 square feet,
I
6.5
didn't
feet
think
tall.
we should change it any further.
Okay. Great.
A question you didn't mention, we took out, on that page, off-premise signs, I think, completely.
Yeah, that's the,
Why did we take them out completely? I just don't remember. I remember the discussion.
because I'm not sure that we have any. It's where you have a church or institutional use, and they want a sign at a different
Right, yeah,
intersection.
so we don't have any? Seem like we used to.
There may be one or two out there, but I'm actually not familiar with any that we have.
I don't know any.
Can't think of any.
Some of the signs are a long way from the building, but that's just because
Yeah.
Yeah.
they've got a huge lot.
Well,
This would be for,
on your own lot, it's different. This is
yeah, this would be for
off-site.
Yeah, this
someone
is
else's
off-site.
property.
Yeah, this is off premises, I
They
don't
tend
know.
not to be very well maintained because they're not,
Yeah.
That's
you know,
right.
they're away from the actual
Yeah.
use.
Okay. Yeah, so you think, we don't have any, so nobody's,
I'm not aware of any.
We talk about if they're allowed for like a special event this way, like for, at a wedding or
yeah,
some sort of event.
Yeah, so that,
special events are
Yeah,
separate than
we have
this.
separate
This is
regulations.
permanent.
Different. Yeah.
Okay.
So, fine, if, you know.
okay. So on page 9, this is going back to that first change where I struck the changeable reader board. Previously, this is where we struck it as well under the special purpose signs, but the freeway overlay signs for these pole signs. My understanding is that we didn't want them to have any type of electronic messaging on it, and so this is the other location that it was struck.
Except for the gas prices, I think was the thing we talked about. Because that's technically changeable, but it's not a reader board, it's not, you know what I'm saying? If you have a pole sign that has gas prices, those can change, but they're not,
Yeah, you know, that's a good point.
they're not, you know,
Changeable, but
It's not
static.
flashing.
yeah. I mean, they may change daily or whatever, but they're,
Configurable.
that makes sense that they'd have that, yeah. So that's the only exception I would agree with, I think makes sense.
Now, these types of signs do require special use, or at least an approval by the city council. Suppose they can present that.
Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't
Okay.
want to imply that we wouldn't allow changeable gas prices
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
pole sign.
So page 10, no new change. I still need to update. I didn't have time to draw a better exhibit for the landmark signs, but that, I have that highlighted that it still needs to be changed. But no other change on page 11 or 12. On page 13, you won't see it on this, but I removed the word sufficiently when dealing with awning signs. It previously read that they should be sufficiently opaque, and I removed the word sufficiently, so it's just opaque. Other than that, no other change on that page. So on page, what does that end up being? Page 14 with the wall signs. If you look at D3, the maximum letter and logo height, we had conversation about also having it be limited to distance from the front property line. I think I need to add the less than and then the greater than symbol for the distance as well. But other than that, so if it's less than 50 square feet or less than 50 feet from the property line, the front property line, then they're limited to the 24-inch maximum letter or logo height. Between 50 feet, square feet, 100 square feet, or 50-foot distance and 100-foot distance goes up to the 48 inches. And then greater than 100 square feet or greater than 100 feet away from the front property line, it can go up to 72 inches.
The only way you're gonna know to tweak that is to experience something that
Yeah.
throws you a curve.
So like the Walmart or a grocery store that's far back, they'll
Yeah.
be able to max out at the 6 feet,
Whole
72
Foods.
inches, yeah.
What's Whole Foods now? Are they that
Probably,
bigger, you think, or are they about?
today
over
it's
100.
maximum 6 feet, so we're keeping that.
So that's an example of a 6-footer,
Yeah, the Walmart, I think, does 6 feet.
Yeah.
and that's appropriate for a building like that.
Yeah, but if you have a small tenant building that's within 50
Yeah.
feet, they could do a 6-inch letter right now, or 6-foot letter.
Yeah, you're, okay.
All right. Next page, no additional changes. On to page 16, no additional changes. 17, no new changes. Although that's where political signs start, but then at the top of page 18, I did go back to the 8-foot height, since that's what the current regulations are. But again, removing the allowance in the right-of-way. No other change on 18, no change on 19, no change on 20, although we did talk about window sign regulations. Right now, it's, if you have a bank of windows, it's 25% of that entire area. This would now require 25% of each individual pane. But no additional changes there. No change on page 21 or 22. Well, I take that back. 22, yes. We had a conversation about these community special event signs. What I did, from what I understood, was that we would just regulate them pretty much all similarly. So the 2, 3, and 4 were eliminated, and all that basically combined together, synthesized into what was 5, now number 2. So hopefully I got that correct, based on the desire of the council.
Is the name of the Chamber of Commerce, I thought is just now Colleyville Chamber?
Right,
It-
Colleyville.
So
You've
no
got
longer,
Colleyville area.
Take
it's
area
needed to
out.
so take
that-
area out?
Take area out.
Okay. Okay. So that gets us to page 23, no change, additional changes on there. Page 24, no additional changes. Page 25, no additional changes. On page 26, letter G, just rather than moving and flashing signs, it's now animated and flashing signs. No additional changes for the remainder of that page. No changes on page 27. And that takes us to the end. No changes on the last page. So from what it looks like just the main change would be with those monument signs, reducing that to 32 square foot for the sign face area, then with the 18-inch of masonry to frame that.
And then sending it to the architectural review committee to
yes.
come up with more unique standards to deal with some of the more eclectic questions about 26 and other
Yes.
areas.
Yeah, but
And then also the distance from the actual pavement of the street to 12 feet.
I pulled up Ulysses, and its maximum area of monument sign shall include a 1-foot masonry border. It's 60 foot square feet, or 60 square feet total.
Total, 60-foot square total being
Including the border?
sign face or including the
So
border?
that's what it says.
total, okay.
So that in itself is 5 by 10.
Yeah, that's
Well, 10 by
big.
6.
We're using,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
10 I mean, 10 by 6 was.
So that did sound like they required the border on all 4 sides.
It just says a border, masonry, 1-foot masonry border, so it may do it.
And we were making on page 7 that 12-foot minimum distance from the edge.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So at the 5.5 by 11, we're close to, well, that might push it to 60 square feet.
Yeah.
60.5,
Yeah.
so we're right in that
That's right.
range.
I think that's pretty good.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we can still put it before the board, the review committee if you want or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think that's pretty,
Okay, so the other things we've done, we've removed any political signs in right-of-ways. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
that's fine.
Okay.
City ordinance,
Huh?
city ordinance, political signs and right of ways, okay.
Except for this May's election.
Well, I kind of wanted the searchlights, you know? Get a lot of attention.
Just trying to help out, yeah.
All right. Okay, anybody have, so would you list the 3 or 4? We changed the sign size to 32 square feet.
Right,
Wait, the
32 square
dimensions it
feet
associated with.
plus the masonry.
Right,
Yeah,
Distance
12-foot
from the
distance.
edge of the right of, the
Right.
street itself, 12 feet.
right.
Really, the only other change was taking out the word area for Colleyville Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, right.
Everything else, I've made the changes
Yeah.
from what we discussed.
Those
last
are in
time.
addition to the ones that you
Yeah.
talked about.
you're gonna change that diagram of the,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta add, yeah, let's,
Yeah, so I have the numbers
Edits.
correct. It's just out of
didn't,
scale.
right,
understand?
okay. All right. We ready for a public hearing?
Yes.
Big
Okay.
crowd.
Open a public hearing. Do we have any cards?
No, sir.
We have no cards.
There's literally nobody here.
Are you sure?
Anybody here want to, I gotta ask this question.
If you're not here, speak up.
Yeah, if you want to speak at the public hearing, please say so. I hear no one saying that, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing's closed.
So are you need
Vote.
approval?
I move the
Yeah.
motion, we approve ordinance 019-2074.
I'll second.
You have a motion to approve by Councilmember Dodson, a second by Councilmember Rigney.
Should I add
Yeah.
with the changes noted?
Yeah, yes, please do, with the changes
You
that
second.
I'll second.
been stipulated a while ago. All right. And we're ready to vote. Okay. Show it when it's ready. The motion's approved, therefore the ordinance is approved.
Just a quick comment, Mayor.
Yes.
Ben, great job on that. A
Absolutely.
lot of
Yes,
work.
thank you.
Made it look easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the only one left is agenda item 9, which is ending resolution, which we do not need. Therefore, I'm going to adjourn unless somebody objects. I see no objection. What time is it?
Adrian's not objecting?
Whoa! We're adjourned, thank
Nice
you.
job, boss. Nice job. Nailed it.
Mark said a lot
Good.
of